Okay, so here we are with the drum part. Um, Basic drum part. The new thing that you're going to have to work on a lot is working the left foot here for the hi hat. And the way the groove is going to work is this. It's basically the same kind of pattern that we've always worked on. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But on the end of 4, the end that comes right after the 4, we're going to open up the hi hat with our left foot and going to give it a little edge. So it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The trick here is to kind of do it at the right time and continue to the next batch. Keep going through the pattern without losing a step. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. What helps me a lot to do this is I'm actually lifting my right foot with my left, and so because when I close the hi-hat, I also want to hit the bass drum. So I get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. One of the things to keep in mind is actually when you close the hi-hat, you want to hit it as well. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That's the trick. So you want to watch out for that spot and multitask here quite a bit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. On the end, this end is the tricky part. You're gonna open up the hi-hat with your left leg, hit it, then you're gonna hit the hi-hat, close the hi-hat with your foot, and hit the bass drum at the same time. And that's how you're gonna get this effect. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Fast, at full tempo, regular tempo, it's going to be like this. Notice that I'm doing this actually every other measure. I'm doing one measure without it and one measure with the opening of the hi. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 so on and so on. And up to speed. And that's your pattern. Let's talk about the verse here. And the verse is going to feature some more accents with that hi-hat trick that we talked about, opening and closing that left foot. By accenting that with the rest of the band, we're giving a little extra energy to those spots and making it sound a little more cool, a little more aggressive. It looks like this. Notice at the end there I went back to the pattern I was showing you before. We're doing the same thing. Mechanically, it's just a question of when we're doing it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Basically, this time it happens on the right after the 2, on the end of 2, and right after the 4 on the end of 4, and we're doing it for 2 measures straight, so there's quite a bit of them. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Notice that again I went back. We're gonna half the verse, or the beginning of the verse, has those accents, the rest of it is not, and we'll talk about that more in class. And I think it'll also become clear if you listen to the song. So again, the pattern is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And there you have it. I want to take a minute to kind of give you some variations on this, especially when we're getting to soloing sections and things like that. The cool thing to do is, instead of using the hi-hat, using the ride cymbal over here, and you can actually do a lot of cool little things with this without working too hard. If we want to get a little lift, a little higher energy on a certain section, and we probably will towards the end of the verse, like the middle 8 section, instead of hi-hat, we're just going to do cymbal. See, my pattern here hasn't changed. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I'm not even adding the hi-hat, any kind of hi-hat fancy schmancy stuff. But because I'm using the cymbal, I'm getting a different kind of vibe to it. Another trick that I use for that purpose is, if you look at the top of the cymbal, there's what we call the bell. That little section here on top where it rises up. And if you hit that, you get actually a very different tone than when you're hitting this spot. So you can go to either regular ride cymbal pattern or to the bell. And you're getting a different tone. A cool thing to do is, if you can work your way up to it, and what I'm doing here is I'm alternating between hitting the bell and hitting the ride itself. Sorry. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or reverse, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's really up to you to decide what works best. And actually, the best way to do it is, once we're at rehearsal, try it either way, and then you'll see which one you like, which one we like the most. I guess I'm not that good at it. And so on and so on. Last thing I want to do is, I do want to talk a little bit about doing fills and so on, so we can do them, you can work on them. The key about fills is how much space do they take, and coming back from them into regular groove wherever we were. I'm going to do a little bit. I'll do it slow so I can count at the same time and show you what happens. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Notice whatever happens, the fill, whatever spot it takes, I always come back to the pattern with no problems. I never do something where I have to, and I have to go back, start. You have to keep the momentum, the flow of the song going and the tempo going. So I guess a good way to practice this is, let's first of all figure out exactly how much time we have for fills, and keep track of that as we're going along. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do pattern of 2 measures first. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and another measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. What I'm going to do next is the last 2 beats, the 3 and 4 and of the second measure, I'm not going to play. It's going to look like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Oops. Let me do that again. You want to see my leg there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now once we have that going, that 3 and 4 and beat, that's where you have room to do a drum fill of any sort. Good place to start with is with something simple that you can keep track of the count, the 3 and 4 and. You're just going to hit different drum instead and make it sound like a fill. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and so on. If you notice, what I did is I took the 3 and 4 in those little spots, and instead of hitting my regular pattern, I just hit a different drum there. That helps me keep track of where I am time-wise. Now, once you get comfortable with that, where you can count those measures in your head, count those beats in your head, and add whatever it is you need to add, you can try to get a little more creative with the what you do during those fills, as long as you can keep track of your 3 and 4 and beats, so you can come back to your regular drum groove after that at the right place. What do I mean? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. See, I'm taking a lot of creative opportunities here, as long as I can keep track of where my 3 and 4 and is, so I can come back to the regular groove on the right beat. If you don't do that, basically the song has to stop for a minute while everybody figures out where the beat is, and the band will lose you. A cool thing also to do is at the end of a drum fill is to add the crash cymbal, which is usually set up here on the 1 beat, but that one ends up on the 1 after, so you're actually sacrificing one of your hi-hats hit for this cymbal. How it looks like slow: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and from there on, you can get as creative as you want to be on this. Just for teaser purposes, I'm just going to play a little bit of the groove, and I'm going to get creative, and as I go along, a little more and more creative constantly with the drum patterns that I'm going to do, and see if you can pick some of them up or rearrange them, find something that you like, simplify it so you can fit it into whatever it is you're doing. If I get too creative, probably won't not do it. So here we go. Okay, I did botch that last one up. But you got some material to work with. And you got to get creative with it. As long as you keep track of how long is the fill and that you can come out of it in time back to where you need to be, you're in good hands. And that's really the only thing we need to focus on here. Here's some other variations that might be kind of good to know. I'm going to do the same pattern. This time I'm going to take the liberties on the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Notice this time on the 3 and on the end of 3 I'm actually hitting the bass drum. So I'm getting something that's got a little more punch to it if I need it. And of course I can combine all sorts of things with that. Yeah. Let's say if I want to get a little more elaborate. This time I'm going to hit the end of 3. Just the end of 3. Not on the 3, only on the little half beat that happens after the 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and again, the variations are endless. I can do the same thing on the snare. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. I can get as creative as I want with it, and this idea can really help you develop some multitasking coordination skills, because as you can see, you have to ask every hand and every leg to do something different, completely different, and do them all together consistently at the same time, which is the complicated mechanical aspect of playing drums. After you figure out all the little bits, that it's figuring out that you want to hit something crazy with your right leg while doing something completely different and completely crazier with your left hand, and all the parts have to come together. But that should give you enough material to work on for a long time. One more thing that I do have come to think of, can add into everything you're doing, is a little bit of playfulness with the hi-hat, in order to give dynamics. Like if we want certain section to feel a little more aggressive, more loud, and then turn it down. All I'm going to do here, let me show you what I'm doing, and then I'll explain what I'm doing here. The trick here was the hi-hat. The pattern was the same as it always been. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All I did was open up the hi-hat a little bit. I'm not fully taking my foot off the hi-hat. I am keeping it just slightly open. You can see it almost looks closed, but it's still kind of dangling a little bit. Whereas if I keep my foot completely pressed down, it doesn't wobble as much. So lifting it up just a little bit, not all the way. See, they're still kind of touching, but they got a little wobbly effect here. They got a different sound to them as a result. So all of a sudden, when I need to bring the energy up, if I'm playing a regular groove, and I need to bring the energy up a little bit, or like a chorus, open up the hi-hat a little bit. As you can see, it has a lot more of a ring to it. And when I bring it down, it brings it back to normal. And that should do it. So here is the bass part, or at least the key, most difficult part. Most of the stuff is going to be pretty self-explanatory from the chart. C, B flat, G, and so on. Follow the chart. But there's one part there, one bass line that happens a lot through the song, and you want to play it or as close to the original as you possibly can. It looks like this. You got to be able to do that for a long period of time. You will be exhausted from this. Let's go over the part first, and then I will explain some ways to make it a little easier. So I start here on a C note, 3rd string, 3rd fret, G note on the 4th string, 3rd fret, back to C, 3rd string, 3rd fret, to an E flat on the 2nd string, 1st fret. Notice the fingerings that I choose to do it. Notice how I keep these 3 fingers sort of set for whatever note that they're supposed to play. If you want to do it with these fingers, that's fine too. That works as well. But I use different fingers so I can easily reach the next note and I don't have to run around like a maniac across the fingerboard. The next thing you want to make sure that you have is to make sure that every time you play a new note, the old ones get silenced. And the reason is because when you have 2 notes on the bass ringing, it becomes very muddled, very unclear what the note are, so it's important to do it. And the way to do that, really, the simple trick is just to lift your fingers just enough to silence the string. Just stop applying the pressure so it looks like. And that's the way it will work. So I got C, let's go back to the notes. C, G, C, E flat, back to C, back to G, and to a low F. Next bit is the interesting one. This is a fun one to do. I start on the C to the E flat, 2nd string, 1st fret, F note on the 2nd string, 3rd fret, and I slide that. I keep the pressure on. If you need to use your ring finger to help you press the note, or if you want to do it. Notice again, even when I do it with the ring finger, I have a lot of support here from the other fingers. Sometimes they're either helping press the string itself or they're actually pressing the ring finger down. You can kind of see I'm helping a little bit with the pressure here. So again, the notes C, G, C, E flat, C, G, F, C, E flat, F, slide to the G, F, and E flat. And the tempo of it, and this is what you have to be able to do for a very long time through the song. And so on. So let's talk about an easier way to do some of these licks, because as you can see, the fingering is very intensive here. And what I'm going to do is something like this. What I'm doing is basically the same line, just cutting out a lot of the fast notes so I have more time to reach the next note. Starting here on the C, C, E flat, sorry, C, C, E flat, C, F. And just doing that little bit at the end, G, F, E flat. So the whole line looks like this. And there you have it. Here is a super simple version of what to do in case your fingers still take time to reach all that massive traveling experience across the nits. this will suffice, but just barely. And you want to work your way up to those previous ones that I showed you earlier. But if you are desperate in the beginning to try to keep up, this definitely will work. I'm doing C, E flat, C, F, F, E flat. And there you have a simplified way of doing that. One more thing that I want to add here is, even whether you're playing the simple version or the complicated version or the version in between, since we're going to be playing that lick over and over and over again for very lengthy times throughout the verse, throughout the chorus, throughout the solos, I'm sure at some point or another you're going to get like, okay, I'm sick of this. I want to do something different. And the trick to keep it different, and one of your roles as the bass player in this, is to kind of give it a sense of amount of time, how many times have we played certain things. So what I'm going to do, every 4 times of playing this riff, I'm going to throw in a little lick. And let me show you what I mean, and then I'll break it down and tell you what show you how I did it. So it's going to look like this. And there you have it. I know this was kind of fancy and kind of fast, and I took quite a few fancy liberties here, but the idea is the same. The progression revolves around a C minor to an F chord. Da, C, do, F, da, na, 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 C minor, na, 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 F, da, na, 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 and so on. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to give a sense of phrasing and where we are in the sequence. If we have to repeat it, especially in the solos where we're going to have to repeat it like, I don't know, 4, 8, 17, God knows how many times, do it. What I'm doing is every fourth time over the F chord, instead of playing that classic lick that we just played, I'm going to play something else. So here it is slow. 1. That was 1. 2. 3. Here's the 4th. I did something different. The way to practice that is, first of all, to know when that 4th time comes around. So the best way to do that is to just not play on that F, that segment. What do I mean? Just practice this. 1. 2. 3. Wait, on the 4th time. This same method of just knowing where the phrasing is also works obviously with the simpler versions of the bass lines that we were doing. Let me start with a halfway there version. And here's the weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, Or in the super simple version, two, three, four, wait. Okay, now let's talk about the fills. What I have is I have about one measure space to do something crazy. And for that, I'm kind of using a little bit of the boxes that work around with those chords. The two main boxes that are most useful would be this one. For the C, there's C. You can actually use this note too. So I got C, 3rd string, 3rd fret, F, 2nd string, 3rd fret, G, 2nd string, 5th fret, B flat, 1st string, 3rd fret, and C, 1st string, 5th fret. And I can mix those notes and mix and match them however I want. Here we go. I did something completely different within the box that I was showing you a minute ago. The trick is to come back from it on time to the C chord that's after that. So you might want to start it simpler. Something like that. And so on. Another box that works really nice is this one. I got my E flat on the 2nd string 1st fret, F on the 2nd string 3rd fret, G open string, and the B flat on the 1st string 3rd fret. This one keeps you more in place, ready to go back to the main riff that you had earlier. The last box that I'm going to show you is all the way up here. It looks the same as the C box that I showed you earlier, only it's transferred completely to the 8th fret. So I got F note here on the 3rd string 8th fret, 2nd string 8th fret, which would be the B flat, 2nd string 10th fret, which is the C. This is the 1st string 8th fret, which is an E flat, and the 1st string 10th fret, which is the F. So if you can get quickly and back between those two frets, go for it. It'll look something like this. That was first. Notice that when I'm playing up here, I'm not trying to play too many notes, so I can have enough time to make it back to the 8th fret at the beginning of the neck here. Notice that was a little fancy thing that I did where I jump between the one box here, which again, if you can do quickly, fine, as long as you keep the right spot where you're landing. Okay, let's talk about some of the guitar parts here. First thing you want to do, one of the things you can definitely try to do is try to match the bass line. It's the same notes. You can watch the bass line, bass part of the video to really follow them. Just treat as if the bass is just missing 2 more strings here, and everything's going to match up and line up together. But let's talk about some rhythm guitar parts, and then we'll talk about soloing over this as well. One of the chords that's going to happen here a lot is this one. And first thing, I'm only playing the 4 thin strings on this. And I'm going to be moving this chord a lot throughout the song. It looks like my fingers are moving a lot, quite a bit, but you probably notice I'm doing this chord quite a few spots. I'm doing it here, I'm doing it here, I'm doing it here, I'm doing it here, all over the place. So let's work on that one first. It looks like this. It's got my pointer finger on the 1st string and the 2nd string. We'll do it at the 1st fret. My middle finger at the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and my ring finger on the 4th string, 3rd fret. For this chord, if your 1st string comes a little bit kind of funky like that, that's quite alright, it's not a big deal. It's an F chord here, but once we move it around, it actually becomes a lot of different things. Just like the power chord that we were able to move, F and G and so on, this chord moves the same way. And it actually matches what's going on the 6th string, because the 1st string and the 6th string are tuned to the same note. So here, it's an F. Here, it's a G. At the 3rd fret, it's a G. 5th fret, it'll be an A, just matching exactly on the page that I gave you in class. You just got to move it around to wherever it is that you need it. Flats, remember, flats move things 1 fret back. So if I need a A flat, I will take an A, which is at the 5th fret, and do -1 fret. At the 4th fret, I get an A flat. Another chord shape that I'm using a lot here is this one. This is a good one to know. I'm using my pointer finger on strings 4, 3, and 2. At this location, it's a B flat. And I will give you the information, way to figure it out in class later on. Again, I'm muting that 1st string. I don't need it. It's okay if it comes out funky. We actually want it to come muted and bad like this. So over here it's B flat, and over here it's a C. Notice that this time I actually opt to use my ring finger. This is the same chord. I'm using the same techniques. I'm putting 1 finger across 3 strings and muting the first string, only this time it's at the 5th fret, and here it's a C. It just saves me a lot of hassle moving around. Right away at the beginning you have to actually go from C to B flat. So instead of moving one finger, you can instead of moving one finger across, you can just lower the finger that you need to play the chord. C, B flat, A flat, F. And that's really that syncopated part in the verse right away. The last chord shape that I'm going to use here, and I'm going to use it a bit because it's the key of the song, is actually the E flat. Technically it's a C minor 7, but just to make it easy, we break it down so the bass player will play a C and you play an E flat, and together those two chords will become a C minor 7. That E flat shape looks like this. I got my pointer finger on 3 strings at the 3rd fret. My middle finger's on the 2nd string, 4th fret, and my ring finger is on the 4th string, 5th fret. Again, if you get that first note muted, that's not a big deal. It's okay. So the difficult part in this song, once we get to the chorus, is going to be, or actually let's get to the verse first. There's a lot of jumping around between C minor 7 and F. So what I can just easily do is this. Notice that all I'm going to do here is move my middle finger up 1 string from the 2nd string to the 3rd and move the shape down to the 1st fret. That'll give me the F chord. Have that. The other part that you're going to have to use this a lot is on that middle 8 of the verse, or like the pre-chorus, however you want to call it. You're going to have an A flat, B flat, to the C minor 7 or E flat for you. And notice that this time A flat, once I get to the B flat, all I have to do is just lower my middle finger on the 2nd string and my ring finger on the 4th string, and I got the chords that I need. Now comes the fun part. G flat, A flat, A. The bass player is going to play a B, so it's going to sound like this. But for you it's going to be A flat, B flat, E flat, A flat, B flat, E flat, A flat, B flat, E flat. And I'm going to use C minor for in class. I'm going to always say C minor for that. Every time I say C minor, it means an E flat for you, only for this song. And the 4th time is going to go A flat, B flat, G flat, A flat, A. And back to C minor to F. Have that. Okay, what I'm going to talk about now is some soloing techniques that you will be playing a little bit of soloing here. Let me move this a little more here so you can see my right hand as well. Looks very fancy, but it doesn't need to be. in order to sound good. The key is, first of all, to know where your notes are, where is your scale that's available for you to play. I would focus my attention on right this spot here. So I got my 6th string 8th fret, 6th string 11th fret, 5th string 8, 5th string 10, 5th string 8, 5th string 10, 5th string 8, 5th string 10. I keep saying, and then 2nd string 8, 2nd string 11, 1st string 8, 1st string 11. And what you want to do is practice being able to move up and down the scale randomly. So start with just doing a down-up motion on every note. And backwards. And then try to do it where you just get one motion on each note. One, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And backwards. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Start with that and keep staying on just that idea until you get comfortable with it. Once you're comfortable with that, then it doesn't have to be this fast, but it's got to be smooth. What you want to do next is try to do it where you're just going back and forth kind of randomly. And so on. What will happen? This will be in the background with the other instruments, and you'll go. And so on, and just improvise that. We'll elaborate on this more as we go along in class. Okay, so let's try a third time's a charm. I'm wrestling here with the camera a little bit, but here are the parts, the keyboard parts that I'm gonna. The keyboards are kind of involved a little bit because you're going to do some soloing. These kinds of fancy stuff, and I'll explain in a minute how to address them. Let's start with the chords. The chords that we're going to talk about are, all the chords here are technically major, but not really. There's actually a C minor chord, C minor 7 to be exact. I will always say C minor 7 in class, but when you need to reach for it, the trick to do is to play an E flat chord with a C in the bass. And if you're looking at it, there's my C note here in the bass, but I'm going to play an E flat chord, G, B flat, and E flat. And I can do it at any inversion I want. And there's your C minor 7. Now, because the bass player will be playing the C's, and sometimes you'll have to have your hands free for other things, whenever I say play a C minor, I probably mean play the E flat for you guys. Let's talk about all the chords. The intro is going to start, basically it's going to be an E flat but with the F note in the bass. Okay, playing an F note in the bass, I know you can't see it in the camera. The way it works, I have an E flat chord here, which is, I'm using the fingerings I use, the voicing I'm using is with a B flat in the thumb, E flat with my pointer or middle finger, and the G note with my pinky or ring finger if you can reach it. And I'm going to this F chord, which is A, C, and F. I'm going to do this whole thing twice. I'm just going to go to a different F every time. Again, it's an F chord. It's the same three notes, only I'm using them in different order. This time I have my C with the thumb, F with my middle or pointer finger, whatever works for you, and my pinky's hitting the A chord. So basically that A chord that we're playing here moved up here, and I just readjusting my finger so I can reach it. So that intro, that's the intro. Next, on the verse, or the main riff that's happening through the solos and for most of the verse and the choruses, the right hand chords are kind of going to be the same. It's the left hand that changes. What I'm doing here in the bass on the E flat chord, I'm putting a C note in the bass, and that's how I get a C minor 7. And for the F chord, I'm actually going to use an F note in the bass. So I'm going to get E flat over C, which is C minor 7, F, bass line is going to be kind of hard for me to play both parts at the same time. Nobody has to. But that's your main riff that you're going to play a lot, and I would say practice that the most to start with. Next tricky part in the verse, again, it's all major chords, it's just that the bass line is going to be different and not your typical note for the chord, and that's what's going to create the cool sounds, the cool effect. We're going to do C, which is C, E, and G, to a B flat chord, B flat, D, F, to an A flat, but notice I'm changing the voicings here a little bit. It's going to be still A flat chord, just in different order. I'm going to do a C, E flat, and A flat. And the last chord is going to be an F, C, F, and A. That way you're constantly staying in the same area. You're not getting driven down the keyboard. So again, C, B flat, A flat, F. The cool thing is going to happen when you start adding the bass to it. So the C is going to still be a C note in the bass. Your chord's going to change to a B flat, but the bass is going to stay on the C. Then we get to the A flat, but the note in the bass is going to be the B flat. And And when we get to the F, the note in the bass is going to be a G. I'm adding a G here on an octave lower just to get a more effective bass sound. So that whole little segment which leads you back to C, B flat, A flat, F, with all those weird notes in the bass. And that's your chorus. Okay, so the last part we got to go over that middle eighth, pre-chorus, however you want to call it. Again, the chords are simple. It's just the way that they're connected with weird bass notes that make it all sound fusiony and jazzy and different. We got A flat, B flat, E flat. But really it's actually A flat over B flat to a B flat to a C minor 7 that we talked about again. Because for the C minor, again, I'm using a E flat chord with a C in the bass. I start with an A flat chord, C, E flat, and A flat, but with a B flat in the bass in the left hand. I go to a B flat chord. I'm staying on the B flat with the bass. B flat, D, and F. I'm going to that E flat, which gives me the opportunity to keep my thumb on the B flat, E flat, and G, but now I'm playing a C note in the bass, and I get that C minor 7. So that whole section three times. The fourth time it's going to start the same, but then it's going to go somewhere else. It's going to start again A flat over B flat bass, B flat, and then the fun part starts. I got a G flat, but with an A flat in the bass. So my G flat, since I'm coming from B flat, the best thing to do is keep your thumb on the B flat note. I got a D flat note here and the G flat note with my pinky. Then I'm going to go back to an A flat. I'm going to keep the A flat note in the bass, C, E flat, and A flat. So I have something that sounds like that. I'm going to do here an A chord, C sharp or D flat, E, and the A note. And if you want to get super technical, replace the A with that G sharp here, and it's going to sound even cooler, but you don't have to. But the bass is going to be a B note. And that's what's going to give it the cool flavor to it. So here's that whole section again. A flat, B flat, C minor 7, A flat, B flat, C minor 7, A flat, B flat, C minor 7, A flat, B flat, G flat, A flat, A. And back to C minor 7 to F. And so on. Last thing that's left to talk about here is soloing. And soloing is, in this, basically making up the melodies on your own.
and so on. It looks fancy, but the trick is to know what notes to choose from. Cool thing about this song, it's in the key of C minor, which makes the scale to use pretty easy to execute because it goes between a white key to a black key. So it's very easy to do this motion between the thumb on the white keys and the middle finger on the black keys. To get fancy. Every now and then I will add, especially when I'm going, I'll add the middle finger or ring finger in the middle there to try to help me jump out of this sounding like a solo, like just moving up and down with no sense of melody. The notes are C, E flat, F, F sharp or G flat, G, B flat. And what I'm doing is I'm just running up and down freely, randomly between them. And of course I keep going after that B flat to next C, E flat, F, B, G flat, G. And I'm doing all sorts of random things in between them. The first thing is to just get to know the notes and be able to run up and down randomly between them, just in order. And then mix it up. And so on. And then we'll talk more in class about how to make it sound like a cool solo. But that's pretty much everything you need to know, and I'll see you in class.